Hello, my name is Sara A. and it's wonderful to be here and to be a part of Jill, this amazing translation series that spotlights women identifying writers and translators. I'm honored, too, to help represent the Third Coast Translators Collective, along with other members and translators, and I want to say a big thanks also to Susanna Lang, a fellow member, for organizing all of us and for proposing this project. I'm going to read some poems in Spanish and in English by the Oaxacan Mexican poet Guadalupe Ángela, who passed away in February 2020. I first became aware of her work through the anthology Siete Poetas, which showcases 7 poets from the Oaxaca state in southern Mexico. I was drawn immediately to the lyricism and imagery in her work, and also the fact that she's the only woman poet in the anthology. I had the privilege of meeting up with her in person in Oaxaca City in 2014, and also in Chicago in 2019, where I live, when she came here for a wonderful reading that I participated in, as well as other poets here, before she passed away in February 2020. She was born in the state of Oaxaca in Mexico in 1969. She received her bachelor's degree from the Autonomous University of Puebla, Mexico, and her master's degree and PhD in Mexican literature and critical studies of language at the Autonomous University of Benito Juarez, Oaxaca, where she served as professor of literature and creative writing until her death. She is anthologized in several Mexican publications and has authored 6 books of poetry, including La Alchemista, The Alchemist, which is an ekphrastic collection based on the art of surrealist Spanish painter Remedios Varo, and Zarpamos, a collection of her works, which has been translated into Italian and to German. I'm going to read several poems from Siete Poetas and my translations. Most of them have been published in the online translation journal Ezra in Volume 10, Spring 2016. I will read her original in Spanish first and then my translation. I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so please bear with me on my pronunciation. These lyrical poems succeed beautifully, I believe, in speaking to themes of longing, loss, and connection, to themes of personal identity and the poignancy of daily existence, often encapsulated in a single moment. I myself tend to be a more narrative poet in my own work, so it was wonderful for me to inhabit a more lyrical, symbolic world as I endeavored to translate her work. So now I'll get started with the first poem of hers that I will read, which is untitled, and this is one also that we read together in Chicago in 2019. No seré la patinadora que anhela los árboles blancos, la soledad de los parques. No me ceñirá el traje de buzo que delinea la diestra figura. No tendré el balance que exige la cuchilla al escribir geometrías en el hielo. No seré más veloz al compartir la ruta de las corrientes de aire. No seré ave que inicia el vuelo a ras de los grandes lagos del norte. I will not be the ice skater who yearns for the white trees, the solitude of the parks. The wetsuit that outlines that skillful figure will not cling to me. I will not have the balance the blade requires to etch geometric figures in the ice. I will not move more swiftly if I let the flow of air currents take me away. I will not be the bird that begins her flight at the same level as the Great Lakes of the North. The next one is also untitled, and she uses a fish, a carp, as a symbol for human longing and loss. En el pozo vive la carpa, no hay espacio ni horizonte, solo caída y oscuridad. La carpa sale a la superficie y mira la luz, ciega, vuelve a caer. La carpa flota en su soledad, un mosquito se le acerca y ella, aturdida, lo come. La carpa dibuja el círculo mil de su existencia. La carpa choca contra la curva de su casa y muere por negligencia. No hay carpa en el pozo, solo una nube de mosquitos. In the well, the carp lives, no space or sky, only darkness and loss. The carp swims to the surface and gazes at the light. Blinded, she falls again. The carp floats in her solitude. A mosquito approaches her, and, dazed, she eats it. The carp traces the 1,000 circles of her life. The carp crashes against the curve of her home and dies from neglect. There are no carp in the well, only a cloud of mosquitoes. The next one is a bit unusual in that it has an English title, although she wrote the body of the poem in Spanish. So when I translated it, I asked her if I should then put my title in Spanish and then my poem in English, the rest of my poem in English. And she said, no, let's keep the English title in both versions. So that's what I've done. First, I will read her version in Spanish, but as I said, it has the English title that she used. Breastfeeding. Estoy tan lejos de aquella joven en bicicleta. Todo se detiene para alimentar las flores de mayo. Ya no puedo entregarme a mis muertes. Casi no me pertenezco. Breastfeeding. I'm so far away from that young girl on the bicycle. Everything pauses to nourish the blossoms in May. I can't keep surrendering to my deaths. I hardly belong to me. The next one is untitled. La pasionaria cubrió el árbol del patio. En la habitación las sábanas. Me refugié como hoja de papel que estruja una mano. Quise recordarme en otros momentos, cuando visitaba de madrugada el castillo de un moro. La lluvia abatió la bugambilla atrapada en una telaraña. The passion flower covered the tree in the patio. My bedroom, the sheets. I took refuge like a sheet of paper crumpled in a hand. I wanted to wake to other times, as when at dawn I visited the castle of a Moor. The rain battered the bougainvillea, trapped in a spider web. The next one, untitled as well. Un hilo largo como la ciudad divide los cuerpos, un hilo tejido por la araña del ático. Mis dedos tocan su estrechamiento, la tensión de la distancia que punta a punta los separa. En el sótano se escucha la voz a capella contra el tiempo. A thread, long as the city, divides the bodies, a thread woven by the spider in the attic. My fingers feel its trembling, the tension of the distance that separates them from point to point. From the basement comes an a cappella voice singing against the passage of time. Finally, I'm going to read one that she wrote as an elegy to another poet who passed away in 1998, Robert Valerio, who was born in England but spent much of his life in Oaxaca City. And I'm reading this in part because since she passed, I'm thinking that it could apply to most poets in its symbolism and in what it says, the loss that we feel. Detrás del árbol, para Robert Valerio. Huelo el fuego en esta lluvia lenta, como si mayo no existiera. Las cartas, testigos de una de un carnaval imaginario. El poeta muere, las páginas bailan el vaste vacío, la biblioteca oscurece sin sus manos. Desenfocada silueta camina entre esculturas de acero, el aleteo del cuervo cruza la noche sin estrellas. In Back of the Tree, for Robert Valerio. I smell fire in the slow rain as if May did not exist. Letters, witnesses to an imaginary carnival. The poet dies as pages dance an empty waltz. The library darkens without his hands. An unfocused silhouette walks among steel sculptures. The flapping wings of the raven cross the starless night. Thanks very much. Guadalupe Ángela.